welcome to video 12, timesing by 10, 100 and 1,000.
When we times by 10, and that's what we're going to look at first of all, we usually say that we're going to make the number 10 times bigger, which sounds like magic. It isn't magic, but because Mr. Slay's mum made Merv an amazing outfit, we've brought him along for this session. So, if I had one unit, and Magic Merv made it 10 times bigger, he would make this, it would be 10 of these. So Magic Merv, oh, he's fallen over, won't be doing that again, has made it 10 times bigger. If I write down there, I had one, I made it 10 times bigger, it moved up the place value position, and we got the number 10. Okay, Merv, what about this then? We've now got 20. If you make that 10 times bigger, each one of these is going to be multiplied by 10. So it's timesing by 10. So by making that 10 times bigger, making 20 10 times bigger, we actually get 200. You see the tens have moved up into the hundreds, the units went up into the tens, and we didn't have anything left over. We've actually made the number 200. So 20 times 10, made it 10 times bigger, was 200. Okay, what about this then? We've now got the number 24. Put a line through here so we know that we've done our calculation for that one. So Magic Merv's going to make this 10 times bigger. So every single one of these would be multiplied by 10. So we know that the two tens are going to become 200s. They're going to move up into the place value position. The 4 units are then going to be multiplied by 10. They're going to be moved up the place value position as well to become 4 tens. And then we have 0 units left. Now some of you might be watching this and thinking, oh, that's easy. All we're going to do is we're just going to add a 0 to the original number. That's not actually the case. Magic Merv, I need to get rid of you for a second. Be back in a minute. Because when we get to decimals and we're timesing decimals by 10, 100 and 1,000, we can't just add a 0 on. So if I had the number 3.4 and I was to make the number 3.4 10 times bigger, if I was to times that by 10, I'd still be moving it up the place value position. So the 3 would go into the tens and the 4 tenths would go into the units, giving us the answer 34. So when we're timesing a number by 10, we're just going to move it up the place value position. Have a go at some of these questions. Magic Merv's going to times 73 by 10, 4.6 by 10 and 102 by 10. Pause the video, have a go, and we'll go through the answers together. Okay, so we've got 73 times 10. We're going to make it 10 times bigger. Come over to our place value positions. I'm going to put 73 here. When I'm timesing by 10, I'm going to move it up one place value position, making the tens 10 times bigger. So the 7 tens is going to go to the hundreds, the 3 units are going to go into the tens, and there's no tenths, so I'm going to put a 0 in my units. 73 times by 10 is the same as 730. Next, 4.6. 4, point to show that we're going to something smaller than a unit, 6. make that 10 times bigger. The 4 units are going to be made 10 times bigger, moved up the place value position into the tens. The 6/10 is going to be made 10 times bigger, moved up into the units. So 4.6 times by 10 is the same as 46. Last example, got 102, 100, 0 tens and 2 units. Make 102 10 times bigger. So the hundreds, those hundreds are now going to turn into thousands. So we're going to move it at one place and put that in the thousands position. We've got no tens. So if we make no tens 10 times bigger, we'll have no hundreds. 2 units, 10 times bigger will be 2 tens. We have no tenths, so we'll put a 0 in our unit position. So 102 times by 10 is the same as 1020. So now we're going to be looking at timesing by 100. So if Merv magically times each one of these so that they grew 100 times bigger, 2 units over here, 100 times bigger, so each one of these grows into 100, would be the same as 200. You have a look at our place value grid, you'll see that actually our place value positions have moved not once but twice. When we were timesing by 10 we moved it up one position, when we're timesing it by 100 we move it 2 places up the place value positions. So let's have a look at another example. So here we've got the number 33. Okay, so if Magic Merv turned these units and made them 100 times bigger, it would move up 2 places up the place value position. The 3 tens, 100 times bigger, would also move up 2 places. We have no tenths, so we're going to have no tens. We have no hundredths, so we'll have no units. So 33 times by 100 would be 3,300. Again, some people will go, that's easy. We just add two noughts. Again, not the case when we come to decimals. So if I had 7.16, let me just put some lines in between here, otherwise it's starting to look a bit confusing. We had 7.16 times by 100. We'd move them up 2 places. 7 would go not into the tens but into the hundreds. The 1/10 wouldn't become a unit, it would become a 10. The 600ths wouldn't become a tenth, it would become a unit. So 7.16 is the same as 716 when it's times by 100. We're moving it up 2 places up the place value position. Finally, we're going to look at timesing by 1,000. So Magic Merv has got his 3 units and he is going to make them 1,000 times bigger. That means we're going to replace each one of these units with 1,000. To the point where we now can't see Merv. So, if we have a look at our place value position, we have 3 units. We've timesed it, Magic Merv timesed it, made it 1,000 times bigger. We're moving it up to, it was 3,000. Now you can see that we've now moved 3 units 1, 2, 3 places up the place value position. If I just get rid of this for a second, we'll come up with some more examples. Merv, sit over here. So, if I had 27.9 and I wanted to times that by 10, I'd be moving it up, not 10, sorry, by 1,000. Let's really go for it. I'm going to move that up 3 place value positions. One way of remembering it is, if it's got the 3 zeros, we're going to be moving it up 3 places. The same when we were looking at times in by 2, times in by 100, we're going to move it up 2 places, times in by 10, moving it up 1 place. That helps you remember how many positions, and that's a useful thing to remember. Okay, so 27.9 times by 1,000. I'm going to move my 2 tens, not into the hundreds, not into the thousands, but into the tens of thousands. 7 units, not into the tens, not into the hundreds, but into the thousands. Remember, we called this our thousands family. So at the moment I've got 27,000. The 9 tenths, not into the units, not into the tens, but into our hundreds. We don't have any hundredths, so we'll put a 0 in the tens, and we don't have any thousandths, so we're going to put a 0 in our units. So 27.9 times by 1,000 is the same as 27,900. Okay, have a look at these calculations that Magic Merv has given you. We're timesing by 10, timesing by 100 and timesing by 1,000. Pause the video and we'll go through the answers together. So let's have a look at these. So the first one, we're timesing by 100, so we're going to move it up 2 places along the place value position. So I've got 43 times 100. 43 times 100, going to move it up 2 places. So the 4 tens are going not into the hundreds, but into the thousands. 3 units, making the 100 times bigger, not in the tens, but in the hundreds. We've got no tenths, so no tens, no hundredths, so we've got no units. So our answer would be 4,300. The next one, I'll just draw a line underneath this one so that we don't get confused. So this time we're timesing by 1,000. We're moving it up the place value position 3 times. So we've got 9.5 times 1,000. 9 units, decimal point to show that it's smaller than a unit, 5. Moving it up the place value position 3 places, so the unit doesn't go into the tens, doesn't go into the hundreds, but goes into the thousands. The tenths doesn't go in the units, doesn't go in the tens, but goes in the hundreds. I've got no hundredths, so no tens, and no thousandths, so I've got no units. So my answer is 9,500. 9.5 times 1,000 is 9,500. The next question, we're timesing it by 10. So we're going to move up the place value position just 1 place. We're going to make it 10 times bigger. So I've got 0.05. Making that 10 times bigger, I'm going to move it up the place value position 1 place. So my 5 hundredths is going into my tenths. My no tenths is going up into my units. I'm going to put my decimal point in the right place. I could put my no units into my tens, but that's like saying I've got no thousands either. So I'm just going to leave that there. 0.05 times by 10 is the same as 0.5. And finally, 6.03 times by 100. I'm going to move it up the place value position 2 places. So I'm going to put here 6 units, decimal point 0.03. Moving it up 2 places along the place value position. So the 6 is going into 6 units is not going into the tens, it's going into the hundreds. The 0 tenths are not going into the units, they're going into the tens. The 3 hundredths is not going into the tenths, it's going into the units. So my answer is 603. 6.03 times by 100 is the same as 603. Okay, so timesing by 10, 100 and 1000. We're going to put it here with multiplication. And here we were going to just move it up the place value position once. Timesing by 100, we're moving it up twice. Timesing by 1000, we're moving it up 3 times.